today's talk is about organ harvesting. Well, you know what? I'm not being fair. It's about organ donation. Okay? So, we're going to talk about what happens when you donate organs, or when you say you're donating organs, or when the hospital um, decides that you're donating organs, right? Is not the process isn't what people think it is. Get me? So we'll start with one of my favorite comedians. This is Anthony Jeselnik saying some real shit.
My brother-in-law is a conspiracy theorist. A crazy conspiracy theorist. Like, my brother-in-law refuses to become an organ donor because he swears that if you get into an accident and the paramedics see that you're an organ donor, they won't try to save your life because they want to use your organs to help someone else. It's insane, but I can't argue with him. He's a paramedic.
Right? They be knowing. Right? They know exactly what's going on. And them dudes that be in the know not to fucking say that you're an organ donor. Right? Being an organ donor, one, organ harvesting is big business. Okay? So when we did the Dick Gregory conspiracies, so one of the things that I thought Dick Gregory was out there about, when I thought Dick Gregory, y'all know I fucks with Dick Gregory. So one of the things that he used to say that I used to, my eyebrow used to be like, I don't know about this one. But the more and more I look into it, I'm like, he might be on to something. Right? So Dick Gregory used to see organ harvesting in a bunch of places that you wouldn't think organ harvesting was. Right? He used to talk about how a lot of the drive-bys, especially in my city, in like major cities, a lot of the random drive-bys were about organ harvesting. Right? And so it wasn't just him. It's a lot of people who've been pointing the finger at organ harvesting being way more prevalent than what we think about it.
Drive-by shootings is organ stealing.
I'm worth $50 million and I need a kidney. And you know, kidneys are pretty sensitive. You got to find somebody who really got the kidney that matches yours. You think I'm going to wait till somebody die for me to get one? If I don't get one soon, I'm going to die. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay somebody to go research people. Okay, let's go look at all the black organ donors. Let's look at all the black people who got organ donor on their driver's license, which is why I'm not a friend of that. I say, if you want to donate your organs, put it in your will. Say that if I die, this can go to my family, my relatives, my friends, or whomever. But when you put it on your license, I believe you make yourself a public target. And so what did they find? We got a guy in Los Angeles. He has the same blood type as you, same kidney type as you, likely. He healthy, though. He ain't likely to die no time soon. He don't know you, so he ain't going to give you no organ for free. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to arrange a murder that makes it look like he was in a car accident. We're going to arrange a murder that make it look like he committed suicide. So the next thing you know, you coming out the gas station, boom, you get hit by a Mack truck. You dead, gone. You get taken to the funeral home. Your family come to the funeral. They don't know that before your body got laid to rest, a little hole was poked and they pulled your kidney out.
A lot of people don't know, when you get arrested or even when you get convicted, a lot of times law enforcement or police will swab your mouth for DNA. And now they have your DNA record on file, they have your genetic information on file. And you have to understand, with law enforcement, a lot of times they'll sell your information to tabloids and, especially celebrities, they sell their information to tabloids and magazines and news outlets all the time. So it's not a stretch to believe that they won't use your DNA or your genetic information for nefarious reasons.
You, my son, cops come by and inform me you just been shot dead. You don't have jurisdiction over that body. That's the coroner. You can't get that body till the coroner release you. So we'll get released, we go down and pick it up, and I see all these cuts and these stitches. I just thought they was doing a routine investigation, following the family. I didn't know they took your organs. I'm under all this stress, my son is dead. Yeah, you buried now. I can't dig you up because the court got to have permission. Most of those cases is organ stealing.
It's been known for a long time, even back in slavery times, that black organs were considered superior genetically to other folks' organs. For example, whenever there's a transplant, okay, especially when rich folks get heart transplant, liver transplant, kidney transplant, they like white, they like black organs. We had a famous case in Pennsylvania, Governor Casey, who was one of the most racist governors who ever lived back in the late 80s, early 90s. He had a heart transplant. Guess whose heart they gave him? A black person's heart.
Down in Georgia, there was a case of an African-American 17-year-old kid who was found mysteriously dead at school. He died in the gym. They did an autopsy and they buried him. His family, they weren't satisfied with the results because they still wanted to know what happened to their son. They had the body exhumed, found out that his organs were missing and his body was stuffed with newspapers, and people are still trying to find answers. The officials down there in Georgia, they act like they don't know what's going on. There was another case out here in California. A young African-American man was found dead in Death Valley in the desert. All of his organs were missing. His liver, heart, lungs, kidneys, all gone. There's a case in the UK recently. A Somalian girl was brought over there for organ harvesting. They found out that they were going to harvest her organs and they stopped that. There was another case in Asian couples. They went over to Africa. They adopted a black girl. 2 weeks later, she was dead. So these cases of organ harvesting are just going on all over the world, and people are being real quiet about it.
So there's two types of organ harvesting going on, right? So one is the illegal kidnapping people, right? And then, they might wake up in Mexico in a goddamn tub of ice with missing a kidney type shit. Or sometimes they kidnap people, kill them, and, they just take all their fucking organs, right? That's not the type we gonna focus on today. The type of organ harvesting we gonna talk about today is the legal type, right? Which is just as fucking dirty, right? Legal organ harvesting is probably the worst. Okay. So one, the first organ transplant, the first, I think it was the heart, right? They transplanted a heart, right? The first heart transplant was done in like 1967. Okay. It was a doctor's name was Christian Bernard, right? He did the first heart transplant. All right. 3 days later, in New York, they did the second one. The second heart transplant was a 3-day-old baby. His heart was taken and given to a 18-day-old baby. And both of the babies died. Right? They didn't work. Oddly enough, neither did the first one. Right? And the guy in South Africa, he died 18 days later. All right. But ever since then, it's like a light bulb went on in the hospitals where all they want to do is take organs and transplant them shits. Right? Organ heart or shit, I'm gonna say organ harvesting. Transplants in the hospital are big money. All right. Um, a, a kidney transplant is worth around $500,000 to the hospital. All right. Where something like a lung or a heart is worth over $1 million. And so you can imagine how, if you're a hospital, you wanna do as many of these as you can. They built entire wings dedicated to just doing transplants. All right. Entire fucking wings are dedicated just to doing transplants. All right. Huh?
It be so sad when people be like donating their organs and then they like on their last breath and they do like their little last stroll through the hospital and people be like cheering them on and giving them the little stroll parade. Oh my goodness, that'd be so sad. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. And that brings us to a
Yeah.
very important point. Okay. So, um, the body is amazing, right? Um, so when you die, um, your body communicates that shit. Like your brain communicates that shit to the rest of your body, right? So when you die, you take your last breath and you go and you die, your body sends out a signal throughout the rest of your fucking body that tells everything else, all right, guys, it's over with, we're done, shut it down. And so the rest of your body systematically shuts down. It's called a death signal, right? It's not just this thing that, it's a natural thing where, the body just kind of slowly passes away. No, your brain tells the rest of your body, all right, we're done. Everybody stop. This is important, right? The important part about this is that in order to transplant an organ, you can't have it not working. Once the brain tells the body, it sends a death signal out, right? It's no longer functional. They can't use that organ anymore. And so, in order for an organ to be usable, it has to come from a living body. Meaning, all organ transplants come from living people. They can't wait till you die to take your organs. You're alive the whole time the organs are being taken from you. Right? The heart is the last thing they take. Sometimes they'll give you anesthetics, but not really. And so if they don't give you anesthesia, you feel it. Meaning that as they're cutting on you and taking your organs, you're feeling it. They'll give you a paralyzing drug so that you can't move. Yes, X, he was still alive. So they'll give you a paralyzing drug so you can't move. But they won't give you anesthetics so you can't feel it. And
Is
so
that because the assumption is that you are already, I don't know, like brain dead or whatever they want to call it?
no,
I thought it had to do with the
the drugs.
not having drugs
Yeah,
in
they
the
can have drugs in the
system.
system.
But yeah.
Yeah, they have drugs in the system.
Oh, wow.
Right? So they don't want to ruin the organ by taking it with drugs. Like, they need this fresh organ. So, yeah. So as they're taking your lungs and your spleen and your liver and all of that shit, your heart is beating. They're removing this shit from right next to a beating heart. It has to come from a living donor. Okay. And so, the fact of the matter is, it's big business. And so they need organs, right? They need them. And so they have to figure out ways to get organs, right? They need people in the system to give away their organs. And so they've developed a method for getting these organs.
The Harvard Committee published in 1968. Already by 1970, Kansas was the first state to have a brain death law. and all the states have a brain death law now. But they embarked to once they invented it, then they set out to make it legal, and they have made it legal. And the laws are all set up to get your organs. The Determination of Death Act.
Even when you go to get your driver's license, they want to grab your, to get you to say right then and there that you're willing to give them your organs.
Yes, and they ask you, do you wish to have it designated on your driver's license that you want to be an organ donor? And if you say yes, then something is put on your driver's license, like a heart or something like that. But if you say no, that's not recorded anyplace. And then you have to realize that I just mentioned the Determination of Death Act, but there's another law called the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act, which has been passed in 47 of the 50 states. And that makes it that it's presumed that everyone intends to be an organ donor. And it's presumed that everyone has consented to everything to be done to them to keep their organs in good shape till they can give them to somebody else. And this is the law in your state and my state. It says things in there that if you have signed up to be an organ donor at the License Bureau, and then you hear things like we're discussing today, and you go back to the License Bureau and tell them, I no longer wish to be an organ donor, then that is called a revocation. And the Anatomical Gift Act clearly spells out that a revocation is not a refusal, and they can still get your organs. The other thing about the Anatomical Gift Act and license that everybody needs to know is that when the learners are taking their driver's ed course, the instructors of the driver's ed all instruct them how to sign up to be an organ donor. And they tell them only good things about being an organ donor. And then the learner, if you can recall, at least I can recall when I was 16 taking that first test, I would say that I don't know if intimidation is quite the right word, but certainly we were anxious about passing the test and would be very careful about any answers that we gave to the examiners. But these young people and the law is that when they get that learner's permit, in some states you get the learner's permit when you're 14 and a half, and some 15 and a half. But once you signed that up, then the law does allow the parents to have some input into it. But if you've signed it up when you're 14 or 15, it stays there for always. And once you become 18, then it is on your license and on your record forever. And incidentally, along those lines, it's very important for the young people to learn that when they reach the age of majority, which in most states is 18, no longer do their parents have anything to say about what happens to them if they're unconscious. So they have to, if they want their parents to speak for them, they have to have a power of attorney that designates the parents to speak for them.
All right, so that's Dr. Paul Byrne, man. So we got a few clips from him. He talks some real shit about this, right? But some of the stuff that he mentioned, the Anatomical Gift Act, it presumes that everybody wants to donate their body. That's the law. They passed it. They assume that all you people want to donate your body, your organs. And if you're, for some strange reason, in a state where, not a state, I mean a state, not a place, but a condition where you could potentially be an organ donor, they will treat you like you're a potential donor. Not like they're trying to get you better, but they're going to treat you like we have to preserve the organs. Okay? You are now, because remember, you now represent millions of dollars um, in revenue, not cost. So when you're a patient, you represent cost, and they might not get that shit back. All right? But when you have organs, you represent revenue, cash money right then and there. And now they switch to their running game where they might not do what's in your best interest. And then if you do have it on your license and you be like, and you go and you say, you know what, I do not want to be an organ donor anymore. You go to the DMV, you tell them, hey, I don't want to be a organ donor. Take it off my license, take me out the system, all of that shit. They call that a revocation. So you revoke to your status as an organ donor. However, a revocation is not a refusal. Then they'll just put you under the presumed gift act, right? They'll presume that, oh, you know what? They revoked their donor status, but of course they want to give us these organs. You know what I'm saying? It's a dirty game. Okay? It's a dirty game. Get me? And it doesn't stop there. So it's not just the Anatomical Gift Act. There's more to it. Right? So you know the HIPAA laws that supposedly start with do no harm, right? Well, really they don't want you doing harm to the hospital's bottom line.
The HIPAA law is part of all of this, by the way. The HIPAA law followed and came about after the Clinton, the Donna Shalala of the Clinton administration issued an executive order that the hospital must notify the organ procurement organization. And then when they passed the HIPAA law, they put it into the statute. In the HIPAA law, there's 14 ways that the government can get your information and use it without your permission. And that's part of the HIPAA law. And when you sign that document that you're talking about, you have signed something that's important. But even if you haven't signed anything, they can still get your information.
So in the HIPAA law, Bill Clinton signed into law that if you're in an accident, the harvesting team gets notified immediately, meaning that there are top men on their way to your location just in case, right? They're sending people to your location. You know what I'm saying? They're on the way. As soon as, oh, there's an accident, they're being brought to the hospital. All right, well, here we come. They don't even know if you're dead yet. They don't even know your condition. They just have to be notified that potential organs are coming their way. What'd you say, Deep? The people they sending are praying that you're dead. Facts. Right? They're coming to see which organs you have that are usable. You got some eyes, some lungs, maybe. What about that spleen? Oh, heart still beating.
And these fucking people are vultures. They are vultures. Like when my best friend's sister died, they hounded the kids and my sister and her sister for the organs. You know, we only have a limited window. You know, and they just pressured. I mean, she hadn't even passed that long. They're grieving and they're like They're ready.
Always. Always there. What you say, Rashane? I think Rashane was saying something. You there, Rashane?
My sister's boyfriend, his wife randomly like collapsed outside by their pool one day. They rushed to the hospital. I think she had like coded. They brought her back to life, and then she might have coded again. And they had put a DNR on her, but she did not have a DNR. And so when she coded again, they didn't like resuscitate her to bring her back to life, and had started before like her husband could give consent. They were already removing her organs.
Bruh.
Zero fucks given. They don't care.
Swear to goodness. They're there for business. Okay? And so remember, so they got these laws, right? They got the people, they got the laws. Now they need the organs. So how do they get the organs? Well, Paige mentioned some earlier, right? As a term that they use, right? The term is called Paige, when can they take your organs? When you're what?
What?
What's the term you said earlier?
Oh, I
When do
said
they take your organs?
brain dead.
Brain dead, right? Do you know when brain dead became a term?
When they
The
decided
term
they wanted
brain
to
death,
start taking organs?
so the first transplant was done in 67, the term brain death was invented in 68. Prior to 1968, a person was declared dead only after their breathing and heart stopped for a determinate period of time. The current terminology, brain death, was unheard of. When surgeons realized they had the capability of taking organs from one seemingly close to death person and implanting them into another person to keep the recipient alive longer, a Pandora's box was opened. In the beginning, through trial and error, they discovered it was not possible to perform this miraculous surgery with organs taken from someone truly dead, even if the donor was without circulation for merely a few minutes. Because organ damage occurs within very brief time after circulation starts. So again, the brain tells the entire body, everybody chill, we're done. To justify their experimental procedures, it was necessary for them to come up with a solution, which is how the term brain death was contrived. It was invented at Harvard. The term brain dead was invented at Harvard as a way to get people's organs. Okay? It was invented as a way to get people's organs. All right? They literally came up with a term when you were still alive to declare you dead. You might be breathing, you might not be breathing on your own, but you're breathing somehow, and your heart is pumping. And they're like, you know what? So remember, in order to take your organs, you have to be alive. Okay? In order to take your organs, you have to be alive. They'll declare you brain dead. Remember, you're not dead, you've been declared brain dead. All right? And so when that wasn't enough, when brain dead wasn't enough, they was like, well, shit. Hmm. This ain't enough. right? They let us they let us get away with saying that people are dead even when they're alive, right? With the under the brain dead act. I wonder if we could push this even further. Is there some even more that we can trick people into to let us get at these organs? Hmm.
Well, brain death was invented to get organs, and of course they advertise often and say we don't have as many organs as we would like to have. So then what they did was invent what they call heart death. And what heart death is somebody who has brain activity, but they want their organs. And so then they take away their life support, and they wait till they're without a pulse, not until the heart stops, but they wait until the heart is not beating strong enough to give a pulse, and then they will wait another 2 or 5 minutes, depending on where they are. In Colorado, in Denver, Colorado, it was reported in the New England Journal of Medicine. Two babies were without a pulse for 75 seconds, for 1 minute and 15 seconds, and then they cut the beating heart out and gave it to other babies, and so the heart death follows the brain death, and again, they're always alive with heart death. They're always alive with brain death.
So because brain dead wasn't getting them what they wanted, right? They was like, you know what? We can get more if we say somebody has heart death. Huh? Meaning you could have brain activity, but they take you off the machine and they let your heart rate slow to the point where they can't detect the pulse anymore. It's still beating. They're just not detecting the pulse anymore. And they say, well, you know what? This person is has heart death. And so they're dead. And now we can take their organs. All right. Would you say, Abdullah, is the term brain dead equal to clinically dead? Because that's what they use in this region. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it. Is that when they take the organs? When somebody in your region, do they say, oh, yeah, they were clinically dead, so, we can harvest their organs? So remember, if they're taking organs, the person is not dead. If they have to qualify what type of death it is, then they're not dead. Well, they're brain dead, so they're not dead. Well, they're heart death. That's not dead. Well, clinically, that means in the clinic world, we've determined what death is. We've made it do it. We've decided that these parameters equal death, and so we can take organs. All right. Um, we say, Ethan, where does this connect with COVID and breathing machines? So, remember they were able to kill people using remdesivir during COVID. Oh, hey, Deep said clinic death is heart death when they can't feel the pulse anymore. Right? They just play word games. Right? And so no, they did the same thing, Ethan. When they intubated people, they put them on the machines and it made them weak. All right, and all them people was dying on them. Goddamn, they were dying on the ventilators. Oh, they was taking organs, my G. They was taking organs. All right, they was definitely taking organs. Don't you know what? The only thing is it gets touchy because remember, you're claiming these people died of COVID. And so um you can't have, this is not a healthy person. And so I would be curious to know if they had two sets of books per se, where the doctors would look and be like, okay, the COVID didn't affect the organs, so we're gonna we're gonna be cool. We're gonna take this. Right? I'll be curious to know that. It's a great question. All right. So they invented heart death. You know what I'm saying? They invented heart death. Oh, and so remember, this isn't just um in America, right? I think um Pauline's right. So this is also happening in other countries, especially in Western countries, right?
First of all, you cannot take an organ from a dead body, from a cadaver. Within 3 minutes of no oxygen, you're going to start damaging brain cells, and within 5 minutes, you're going to have cellular death. You have got to be alive to take your organs. That's the end of it. You're not dead. There's no such thing as brain death. If your heart is beating, if you are metabolizing fluids, if you are metabolizing a liquid feed, a soya feed, which they give you, and you're having bowel movements, you are not dead. You're not dead. It's a lie. They're talking about the brain stem, where you've got the hypothalamus, the center that controls your blood pressure, your heartbeat, but the rest, you're not dead. It's a lie. It was a lie that was manufactured so that they could do their eugenics, taking organs from one person to the next. Who makes the best organ donor? Under 30 with a beating heart, a circulation, and ideally on a ventilator. When is the decision made to take your organs? Very early on, probably before you are even aware what they are doing. Because the treatment to preserve your organs is very different to the treatment to save your life. In the UK on the 22nd of May, everybody became an organ donor unless you opt out. People do not know. So the minute that you make that 999 phone call, everything's up there on the screen. They know who you are. This is why they want you on a digital system. Your entire medical history is going to be fed through AI, how much tax you pay, what you're worth to the system. And that's going to come up with whether you're a yay or a nay. Are you getting life-saving treatment or are you on end-of-life care? What age are you? Are you then for organ donor? This is very important that people know this. And so you have to ask, what is this? It's eugenics. It's eugenics.
So there you go, Ethan. She mentioned your ventilator, right?
You're a
So
vegetable. Stray.
hey yo. All right. So the tip top is under 30 healthy on the ventilator, right? During COVID, you didn't have a lot of those, but you had a lot of people on ventilators. So even though they were older, right? Remember they put a lot of people on ventilators. So even though they were older, right, they still was trying to preserve that organ, pumping oxygen into the body. All right. They were preserving the organ, trying to pump oxygen into the body. And I'll be willing to bet they still took a lot of those quote unquote COVID organs. You know what I mean? But yeah, UK, you guys are having the same problem that we're having over here, where they assume that everybody's a donor. It's just what it is. Okay, they're going to take your beating heart, living body, brain activity, and all, and start harvesting you like some shit out of a scary fucking movie. Okay. Um. So I know what you're thinking. Well, how do they know, like, if you're brain dead? Like, how do they know if you're dead? Well, what do you guys think the best way to tell if somebody is brain dead or not? Like, if y'all had to think, if you had to just think, if you're a doctor, you're smart, you've got a 256 on the U Smile test, right? What's the
If you
best way to
respond
know?
to pain, if you respond to pain,
Responding to pain. Oddly enough, you know what? They strap people down when they're harvesting organs because when they cut them open, their bodies rise up. You know how if you're strapped down and somebody cuts you, their bodies fucking react. They're like, hey. So they know they respond to pain. That's why they give them paralyzing drugs, because when they cut them, the bodies respond. So they ignore that. Yeah, they ignore that. 100%.
Like, how fucking horrible. Like, can you imagine?
Oh,
Fucking
unfortunately, I can't. That shit sounds
horrible.
fucking awful.
My
Yeah.
God.
Oh, yeah. That's why they paralyze them, because they don't want them moving. They respond to pain a lot, right? So they have to strap them down. They give them paralyzing drugs. They strap them down. They do all of that shit, right? I know, Quan. Um, yeah. So, uh, yeah, they. So if you took the U Smile, you got 257. You can be a plastic surgeon, but you here doing the Lord's work, right? How would you know if somebody is brain dead? Don't worry about it. I'll tell you, right? No problem. I got you.
There are things that need to be done to help and protect the life of that unconscious person. One
Please
is they
don't.
need to have someone there with them all the time. I uh, I I encourage, instruct that they need someone with their unconscious person all the time. You cannot go away from them. The other thing that everyone needs to learn is that in their determination or declaration of brain death, they they do a procedure that they call an apnea test, and everyone needs to know to object, to say no to the procedure of the apnea test. Incidentally, it's a test not for sleep apnea. That's a different thing, and that's okay. Actually, many people have sleep apnea, and the treatments that are used help people a lot. So you can be tested for sleep apnea, but do not allow an apnea test to be done. What they do when they do the apnea test is they take away the life supporting ventilator. They take it away for 10 minutes, not just for 30 seconds or a minute, but for 10 minutes. And so they're without a breath for 10 minutes. It suffocates the patient. It makes the carbon dioxide go up, the acids go up. It's a terrible, terrible apnea test to be done. Fact of the matter is, very seldom do they ask for permission to do the apnea test. They just do it because if they told someone that they were going to suffocate their uh, their wife, their husband, their son, their daughter for 10 minutes without a breath, anybody with any common sense would say, no, you can't do that. And yet they do it all the time. It's part of this declaration of brain death. It's a procedure, and I call it a procedure. It's not a test. They call it an apnea test, but it's really a procedure called an apnea test. And you see, a test is that a doctor could shine a light in your eye and see if your pupil responds, or blood could be drawn from you and a test could be done. But in the procedure of the apnea test, they take away the ventilator. They do that procedure of taking away the life supporting ventilator for 10 minutes, which suffocates the patient. And everybody must learn, every one of your listeners, everyone who views this must learn that if they have a patient, they have a relative in the hospital that's unconscious and on a ventilator, they must instruct no to the apnea test. Do not allow the apnea test.
All right. So
Okay, wait, how is that possible? If they take them off for 10 minutes, don't they go brain dead?
no, brain dead is not a
Right,
thing.
it's not
They
a thing,
invented.
but like doesn't their body start shutting down after a couple minutes without oxygen? And if you're removing the life-saving machine,
Right.
like
Exactly. No, that's literally what happens.
how can they harvest the organs? Like if
No,
they're
no, no, no. They don't leave it like that. They take it off to see, all right, well, can this person breathe on their own? They
Mhm.
can't breathe on their own. Oh, then they're brain dead. You know what I'm saying? So we're just going to go ahead and take, so they'll say they failed the apnea test. So we're keeping them alive just so we can harvest their organs.
And that's what I'm saying though, like wouldn't the organs or whatever the body start shutting down after a couple of minutes without air? And it wouldn't be
So,
good organs
well,
anymore.
so the thing is, a person might not be, they might breathe really weakly. So let's say you're trying to breathe, right? So you're struggling, you're breathing as hard as you can, and it gets tired after a while because the machines were doing all the breathing for you, so you could rest. You know what I'm saying? And so let's say you struggle through it for a little bit. Yeah, great Poseidon, shallow breaths, right? You're taking these real shallow breaths, right? And you're struggling, and you get tired after a while, and so you might, and they'll be like, all right, well, this person can't breathe for long on their own, so you know, clinically they they're brain dead, right?
But
So,
okay, yeah, and I get that. But like the man said that they could take them off like for like up to 10 minutes or whatever. And I'm just wondering how does that work if they take them off for that long and your body starts shutting down and your organs are
well,
dying?
so
Then
this the
like
thing. They don't
how you do
so
that for 10 minutes?
because they might start breathing on their own. So once you take the machines away, the person can try to breathe on their
Oh,
own.
that's what you're. And then they're still breathing, but it's shallow breaths and it's like you hardly know. Okay,
Right.
I think I got it.
Yeah. So they're breathing on their own. So if they survive the 10 minutes, then it's like, well, shit, they're not brain dead. So I guess we got to they put them back on the machines and they keep them alive. But if after, a couple of minutes, they can't breathe on their own and they need the machines, they'll be like, well, they failed the apnea test. And that's when they'll
Got
start
it.
treating it. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they can call you brain dead. Get me? So yeah. Um, That's the apnea test. So you're sitting there with your loved one who was in a horrible accident, right? It's been a day or two. You're there, and a nurse comes in and says, "You know what? You look pretty tired. You're hungry. We have to change the sheets anyway. You can go get some food. Come back in like 30 minutes." You know what I'm saying? Let us change the sheets and all that shit, right? When you go get some food, you think they being nice. When you go get some food, they unhook this motherfucker from the goddamn machine and they perform an apnea test. And then you come back and they say, well, you know what? We did the apnea test and, they're clinically brain dead. And so, maybe we should start thinking about organ donation. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we should start thinking about organ donation. All right. So, yeah, it's not and so they don't have to tell you when they do it. All right. They don't have to tell you at all. They'll just kind of do it. And you might not even know what they did. The apnea test. All right. Um. So where is it at? I know what you're thinking. Thinking, well, you know what? These people know best. They're the professionals, right? um. Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick. So, this is a document by the guy that was just talking, Paul Byrne. So this is what he wrote. um, the apnea test proves only one thing. The patient needs the ventilator to breathe. It does not prove that the patient is dead. In fact, a ventilator can be effective only on a living person. The language of the UDDA seems strong, but it's very weak because the declaration is made in accordance and with acceptance of medical standards. The words standards, criteria, and guidelines are used interchangeably. In the first 10 years of the UDDA was promulgated, 30 30 desperate sets of criteria for determining brain death were published. A 2012 report on the survey of neurologists in the USA concluded that there was no consensus or consistent rationale as to which set of criteria was to be used. A patient can be dead by one set of criteria while alive by another set. Further, the study indicated that the criteria are not evidence-based. At that point, the American Academy of Neurology recommended another set of guidelines, and the new AAN guidelines were subsequently recommended for general use without further investigation. The AAN guidelines included the apnea test. Can anyone agree to an apnea test for a loved one with the knowledge that the apnea test will only harm and possibly kill their loved ones? So you heard him on the audio talk about how the apnea test increases carbon dioxide and acids in the blood tissue, which is harmful, especially and it will cause the brain to swell. So if you have somebody who's already got kind of a swollen brain and then you do something to cause further swelling, that's not helpful. And so the test is harmful to the person. Okay. So yeah. All right. So I know what you're thinking. Well, again, these are professionals. Right? They know what they're doing. Right? Um, the thing is, um, even um, even what they do. So we talked about giving like anesthesia and things um, to moms last week, right? When we talked about kind of childbirth, right? We talked about childbirth, vaginal birth versus C-section. We talked about the anesthesiologist um, giving drugs to pregnant women. And so one of the things that was said in this interview I thought was interesting. They connected giving anesthesia to mothers during childbirth and um, and what causes or what can lead to organ harvesting, right? It was I don't know, it wasn't that far-fetched when I heard it. All right. So they connected anesthesia to birthing moms and how that could lead to organ harvesting. All right. So y'all tell me what y'all think.
And then the thing that is so just disturbing, all of this stuff is disturbing to me. But the thing that is so disturbing now is that the addict who overdoses becomes an organ donor, and they get organs, as many organs from the addict who overdose as they do from automobile accidents. It's so awful because addict often it's an addict who has gotten himself or herself off the drugs, and then as they're about ready to go back to work, they go one more time, and the dose of drug that they were taking before has such a greater impact now, so they become unconscious. And then there's much campaigning these days to have Narcan available, which counteracts the many of the opioids. But what happens is that if they don't pick up immediately, they then become an organ donor, and the brain, when it's depressed from those chemicals, needs time to heal, and of course they quickly embark on getting their organs.
Let me
Oh damn! I cut it off before. Well, you know what? I didn't get the part where the lady interviewing him said that there's evidence that the drugs that are given to moms during labor um, become they damage the receptors, some receptors in the body that the drugs kind of that they attach to, and so that leads to addiction. And so she was connecting the anesthesia given the epidural, the opioids in the epidural, damaging the baby's receptors, and that leads to addiction. And I was like, ooh, I mean, it sounds like a stretch, but I'm with you. I'm here for it. All right, I'm here for it. And so we got the last part where he talked about how addicts they end up becoming organ donors, right? A lot, right? And so he's saying that they make really good organ donors because there's not a lot of trauma to the body, right? They OD, they get on Narcan, it may or may not work. They go to the hospital unconscious, boom, organ harvesting, all right? Organ harvesting. Okay. So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking these professionals know what they're doing. If they say somebody's, dead, brain dead, heart dead, clinically dead, it's probably the truth. They see it time after time. All right. There's no reason to doubt that what they're saying is facts. All right. Um, well, listen to Dr. Burns' story about baby Joseph, oddly enough.
Well, what happened is that in 1975, I had a baby, Joseph, in my nursery, who was on a ventilator, and he had been on the ventilator for several weeks, and he didn't move. He wouldn't breathe. When we would take him off just a little bit, he wouldn't breathe. And so a brainwave test was done on him, and his brain waves were flat. And what was written on his chart was consistent with cerebral death. And I saw death on his chart, and I looked at Joseph and I said, I don't understand this. So it was suggested to stop treating him, but I continued to treat him. Eventually, he was able to be weaned from the ventilator. When Joseph went to school, he got straight A's and he ran track, he played baseball, and he's married and has 3 children.
So hold on. There was a baby that on the charts they declared dead and unresponsive. And my man Dr. Byrne was like, you know what? Heart's still beating. There's some brain activity. We're just gonna keep treating him. And he kept treating him. And what do you know? The baby recovers, makes a full recovery, and lives a life. After they said, he's dead. All right. Remember, the second transplant was done a 3-day-old baby to an 18-day-old baby. All right. So babies can't talk. All right. And remember, in order to be in pediatrics, you ain't got to score that high on the U smile. All right. So it doesn't stop there though. All right. There have been many stories about um, organ organ donors um, going wrong. Okay. So here's one in the Atlantic. Okay. This is the part that everyone agrees on. I'm reading the article. An 8-year-old boy died at Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center August 2013. His liver and kidneys were donated for transplant. The LA Times reports police are now investigating exactly how he died at the hospital. The boy, though not technically brain dead, had suffered so much brain damage after a near drowning that doctors determined he would never wake up from a coma. The doctors told his family, oh yeah, he's never going to wake up. How the fuck they know? So his family decided to take him off of life support and donate his organs. A doctor gave him a dose of fentanyl after his ventilator was removed. So after they took the ventilator away, they fucking OD'd him. Well, they tried to OD him. She says it was to ease his suffering. But a county coroner who later examined the boy's body says it was the fentanyl that killed him, raising the question of whether a fatal dose was meant to quicken his death and keep his organs more viable for donation. The coroner has since filed a lawsuit alleging retaliation from her bosses when she relayed these concerns. This unusual case casts light on a once controversial but increasingly common protocol called organ donation after circulatory death, which occurs after the heart has stopped, also sometimes called donation after cardiac death. In contrast, the vast majority of organs in the U.S. come from donors who are brain dead. Remember, the kid wasn't brain dead. Brain death is in some ways a logical standard for organ donation because it resolves an inherent paradox. Bullshit. The donor must be dead. Well, remember what they classified as brain dead, but the organ itself is alive. People who are brain dead generally have no reflexes. With 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 life support, their organs stay healthy up until the moment they're removed for transplant. Remember, they're alive. A Harvard Medical School committee first proposed the idea of brain death in 1968, in part to resolve controversies about organ transplants, and it slowly gained acceptance. So remember, some motherfuckers at Harvard was like, you know what, we're Harvard. We think you're dead when this happens. And motherfuckers just capitulated. Right? So whenever they want to perpetuate some bullshit, they say it came from Harvard. And people just be like, oh, well, it came from Harvard, then it must be true. Right? So that it's a massive appeal to authority. Less than 1% of people who die in hospitals are brain dead. So in the 1990s, in response to a long transplant wait list, experts began pushing to expand the pool of potential donors. Yo, you see how they worded that shit to make it seem like they didn't just decide to kill more people? They advocated for the return of DCD, a protocol. That's what we just talked about. The what's it called? The donation after cardiac death. That was DCD. All right. So they advocated for the return of DCD, a protocol used in the early 70s before brain death became widely accepted. In DCD, doctors remove ventilators from patients who have suffered severe brain damage but are not brain dead, like the boy in LA, and wait for them to stop breathing on their own. But the clock starts ticking as soon as the ventilator comes out. With every minute, the organ can deteriorate. Hearts and lungs from DCD donors are rarely viable. So remember, they're trying to get that heart and lungs. Remember, the heart and lungs, that's where you get the 1.5 million, right? And so if they wait for this motherfucker to die, the heart and the lungs gonna be fucked up. Ooh. More resilient organs like kidneys and livers can survive 30 to 60 minutes. If the patient does not stop breathing within that time, the whole organ donation is called off. So they need this motherfucker to die. Right? They can't be waiting that long. It's like, well, shit, this motherfucker holding on. God damn it. We got to do something. The time pressure in DCD is part of the reason why critics have raised ethical concerns in the past. In 2007, a doctor in San Luis Obispo stood trial for attempting to hasten the death of potential organ donor with morphine. The patient actually took several hours to die. This motherfucker wasn't trying to die. The doctor was eventually acquitted, but the case was a wake-up call for transplant surgeons. So he tried to kill somebody. Well, he did kill him. He just didn't die as fast as he thought. This motherfucker was trying to live. Right? The clock starts ticking as soon as the ventilator comes off. Oh, we said that. Over time, hospitals have refined their DCD protocols to avoid the appearance of conflicts of interest. Nigga, what? For example, doctors who care for patients are entirely separate from transplant teams who procure the organs. DCD now accounts for about 9% of all transplants in the US. Wait, what? So the doctor that care for the patient is separate from the transplant team. That doesn't mean they don't know them. And they all still part of the same fucking hospital. What are we talking about? But parts of the protocol still vary hospital to hospital because some ethical questions do not have clear answers. One issue is how far can doctors go to preserve organs before a DCD donor dies? Can they give them heparin, a blood thinner that aid preservation but does not benefit the patient? Can they stick a catheter into the patient so the blood begins running through oxygenated machines as as soon as possible after their heart stops? So remember, now this is all about how I'm going to kill this motherfucker. How am I going to kill this motherfucker in front of me? How do I kill him to preserve the organs? That's what they're thinking. They're no longer thinking about saving you. It's over with. We're killing you. These questions come up because doctors are supposed to act in the patient's interest. As long as the patient's heart is beating, they're considered our patient, says Jeremy Simon, an emergency doctor and bioethicist at Columbia University. One way to address these concerns, says Simon, is to obtain consent for these interventions from the patient or surrogate beforehand. Remember, if the parents aren't there, then they can appoint a surrogate themselves, right? They'll act as the surrogate. Get me? One of their people will be the surrogate for the patient.
I got questions.
You, what'd you say? Is that me?
No, I can't either.
She said she got a question.
I know, and I said what? And I ain't heard nothing else. Is she talking on mute?
Oh, damn, was I?
Yeah.
I might have been.
Jesus
Okay.
Christ.
So, do you think that that's the reason why they kept putting people on the ventilators in 2020?
No, I just think they were trying to kill people. I don't necessarily think it was for organs.
You sure?
No,
That's
I'm
good
not
enough.
saying.
Nice for
So,
a heart.
cause you got to remember, these people are dying with the most deadliest disease the world has ever seen. Right now,
But they knew it wasn't, and the people that they was giving the organ to knew it wasn't.
no. So this is what I'm saying. Remember, these people were supposedly dying of COVID, and
I
so
know.
right. So this the thing.
But
You can't outwardly take those organs without giving up the ghost. Because I said this earlier when Ethan asked about it. So you
uh,
can't outwardly take those organs without giving up the ghost. Because if you're taking organs from these people, that means these motherfuckers is useful. That means this COVID shit is some bullshit, right? Yeah, the organs will be infected with COVID, quote unquote. So that's why you can't have a mass organ harvesting motherfucking situation, because you would then be signaling to people that COVID ain't that bad. So that's why it's tough. That's why I don't think it was necessarily to harvest organs. All right. Now I still think they did it, but I don't think it was a mass fucking thing like that. Right. I still think they did it, but I don't think it was to the level. I mean, um, what was I at? Okay. Patients taken off ventilators will often gasp for air. To alleviate the pain from air hunger, doctors will administer painkillers. Though the medical profession establishes a bright line, the dose cannot be so big as to intentionally kill the patient. Medical experts said it was difficult to determine whether the dosage was appropriate in the LA case based on few publicly available details. It's a matter of public trust in the system, Francis Delmonico, a transplant surgeon at Harvard Medical School, told the New York Times in 2009. If patients believe doctors are euthanizing patients for their organs, the country's already low organ donation rate could only go down. That Time story also profiles a family whose daughter died after an unsuccessful attempt at donating her organs through DCD. It captures the heart and the moment. It captures the heartbreak of the moment and the uncertainty inherent to the process. All right. Um, Paul has some difficulty understanding why. If Jaden was going to die anyway, she could she could not have been put under general anesthesia, undergone surgery to donate her organs, and then had been declared dead. Removing the breathing tubes to attempt DCD had the same effect, only it took much longer, and Jaden breathed irregularly for many hours, which seemed to Paul more distressing. If it was all up to me, he explained, I would have taken her organs. What? So he would have just took her shit. Like, yeah, she breathing. So that Christina, when they took the breathing tubes out, and she tried to breathe for hours. Not just 10 minutes, hours she was breathing. Right? For these reasons, Robert Trong and Franklin Miller, an anesthesiologist and a bioethicist respectively, have proposed in the New England Journal of Medicine to do exactly that. The proposal hasn't gained much traction in the medical community, though. Trog and Miller's proposal is still very controversial as a point of academic debate, says Armand Antamaria, a doctor and ethicist at Cincinnati Children's Hospital and Medical Center. It's not even discussed in the realm of official institutional policy. But brain death was once controversial idea too. DCD went from standard practice to controversial idea to standard practice again. Over the decades, advances in medicine have stretched out the gap between life and death. Organ transplants, by necessity, can only exist in that gap. And the very rise of organ transplant has influenced where the boundaries of it are drawn. So, yeah. So, that's one article about how these motherfuckers are deciding on how they're going to kill people. So they've decided that they're going to kill people, right? They're comfortable with that.
That
And so they're just
breathing
going
for
with,
hours thing was wild. God dang. That's crazy.
yo, supposedly, this person got to be brain dead, right? But they want to live. They sitting up here struggling for fucking hours until you finally fucking kill them. Or as a doctor, you sit there and let them die, right? As a doctor,
But
you
what's
sit
the
there and let
grand
them die.
scheme? Like,
Hmm?
why are they doing this?
Because they get paid. Like,
Mm.
they build
I
entire
think it's deeper than
wings
that.
based on transplants.
I
Huh?
think it's deeper than that.
Well, the doctors are doing it because they get paid.
Right? Yeah. On the
What's
You know what
deeper
surface.
I'm
than
saying?
stealing organs?
What'd you say, Mark?
What's deeper than stealing organs?
No, it's who are the organs for?
That's the same thing.
But it's like they're playing God, they're advancing medical knowledge or whatever, trying to go down in somebody's history book, maybe. I don't know, like research, whatever. Like we saw everything that they did with dead fetus tissue, so why not? Like they can do all kinds of stuff with it. They don't have to put it in other people. They can do private research or whatever and then sell it on the black market or there's like a lot of different things they could do.
Mm, so,
I think it's spiritual warfare.
um, I'm not mad at that. Spiritual warfare is not a bad thing. All right, so check this out. Y'all think that's crazy. So imagine, so remember, it's brain dead. People are brain dead and they're going to have their organs taken out. Okay? For decades, the concept of brain death since its inception in 1968 as the neurological standard for determining death has been the basis for current policies in organ harvesting from heart beating cadavers. You hear that term?
Isn't that,
Organ
wouldn't that
harvesting
be
from a heart
oxymoron?
beating cadaver.
Isn't that an oxymoron? Or that would be
Bruh.
That's some get out stuff.
A heart beating
it can't be
cadaver, meaning you're
both.
alive, but they want to kill you. Okay. Despite the widespread medical and legal acceptance of brain death, there have been persistent misgivings that many heart beating patient donors have been declared brain dead when in fact they are not truly dead. Indeed, the contemporary history of medicine is not lacking in modern day versions of Poe's horror story. Um, let's see. It says namely the accounts of brain dead patients who narrowly escaped the fatal ordeal of organ harvesting. A common pattern runs through the most of these accounts. The patient is invariably a non-elderly person, constitutionally healthy, who become deeply comatose and ventilator dependent because of a sudden and severe brain injury. Within 24 to 48 hours after the accident, he or she was declared dead according to the neurological standard and destined to be the soon to be performed organ removal. Among the many narrow escape stories that came to the attention of the media, one can think of the recovery of a 21-year-old male who in 2008 was declared brain dead 36 hours after his accident, right? His name was Morales. Dead man recovering from ATV accident, NBC News, right? March 23. Hold on. So this is the article. I was looking at this earlier. Hold on. Where is it at? So this is his friend, Dr. Mercer. I told him I was going to order a. Let's see. His brain injuries were absolutely catastrophic. I told them I was going to order a confirmatory test, a brain flow study. At the scanner, we actually scanned it twice. The doctor took us in and showed us the image on the computer, and he told us the dark areas will be the areas where there's no blood flow to the brain. Doug Dunlap. Oh, sorry. And this was the whole brain. This was the whole thing. It was just black. And that where the doctors were the doctors giving you any sense of hope, they were already saying he was brain dead. So when you see this, I mean, he was in a permanent vegetative state. No, he was dead. He meets the legal. So this is him talking to the doctor. He meets the legal medical requirements for declaring a patient brain dead. So remember, brain dead is the key term. They keep fucking pushing that shit. So his dad was like, he lived life to the fullest, and laying in bed the rest of his life, that wasn't an option. So this is his mom. I had seen his driver's license, and I knew he was an organ donor. Always wanted to help. That's it. He had a huge heart. Um, so let's see. As the helicopter sent by the organ donation team was scheduled to land, friends and relatives gathered to say goodbye. They had no idea of the miracle they're about to witness. Zach Dunlap was declared dead 36 hours after flipping over his four-wheeler. Official word of his death was reported to Oklahoma authorities. Zach's organs were expected to soon be harvested, and his parents would start funeral arrangements. Family and friends were told to gather at the hospital to say their goodbyes. One of the first to arrive was Zach's best friend. Um, I couldn't even hold his hand. I was just shaking. Zach's younger sister Casey said, "I just wanted to break. I just wanted to break down right there." Okay. Um, Let's see. I'm trying to get to things. Let's see. Um, I sat there and just said to him, Zach, if you're in there, if you can hear me, ask God to help you. And I mean, it probably wasn't 10 minutes later, I started getting this different feeling in my gut, and I thought, he's not ready. There were things were just looking better to me, right? What did you do? I grabbed his foot, I pulled my pocket knife out, and I just started scraping his heels from head to toe. I mean, from heel to toe. Dan and Christy said they got the shock of their lives. He jerked his foot plumb out of my hand. Was it possible? Was Zach still alive? My first emotion was disbelief, of course. There was no way for you to think that this was going to be possible, that he could still be alive. Um, Needing to challenge even his own skepticism, Dan said, let's try this. So I grabbed Zach's arm and I stuck my fingernail underneath his fingernail. You know, that's a tender area. And Zach just threw his hand over there. And by now, so he physically moved his arm. He physically moved his hand away from me across his body. And I kind of drew up myself inside, and I'm like, oh my God, Brenda. Like my first reaction was, I need Dr. Mercer. Dr. Mercer, I indeed verified that these were purposeful movements. Rather than a reflex, twitch is a telltale sign of brain activity. Suddenly, 4 hours after Zach was declared brain dead, his room was bustling. Pam and Doug were out in the hall getting ready to head back in to spend their final hours with their son when they were stopped. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm trying to get to the end where they say what happened.
At
Um,
least he had somebody with him that was able to, you know, to talk to him and mess with him. And wow, that's crazy.
mm-hmm. So 12 days after his reawakening, Zach spoke. So yeah, they were about to send this dude to have his organs harvested, and he was still a fucking live. He was declared brain dead by the fucking doctors, and still alive. Um, let's see. So that was Zach. On, let's see, March 23rd, the recovery of a 41-year-old woman, so-called brain dead, who unexpectedly woke up in the operating room just as her organs were about to be removed in 2009. Yo, they're fucking cannibals.
People be knowing. Their body is like telling them, hey,
They're just taking organs. They're killing people off and taking organs. This lady woke up right as they were about to cut her open and take her organs. She woke up like, hey, right? Let's
now that's
see.
making me rethink about the whole ventilator thing. Because, when you took people, you could not be with them, you couldn't see them, you couldn't, like that was horrifying for a lot of families. So
Hmm.
I'm wondering if they actually did do a mass harvesting.
Let's see. St. Joe's dead patient woke up as docs prepared to remove organs in July 7th, 2013. And the recovery of a 19-year-old woman who in 2011 also suddenly woke up while the doctors gathered around her bedside were discussing her presumed brain death and possible organ donation. Let's see, 2012, October 17th. The girl who wouldn't die. Incredible story of a 19-year-old who woke up as the doctors were preparing to harvest her organs. Recently, 2 cases of irreversible brain damage have been reported from academic tertiary hospitals. A 10-month-old infant with reversible findings of brain death, pediatric neurology, reversible brain death after cardiopulmonary or pulmonary arrest, and induced hypothermia. So it's all these different people that they say, yo, they're brain dead. And these motherfuckers reversed and woke the fuck up. In addition to the above mentioned dramatic spontaneous full recovery from brain death, there are also many well documented cases of brain death survivors. Though pronounced dead according to the neurological standard, these patients continue to live, albeit in the severe disabling state of chronic brain death. The following is not an unlikely scenario. A severely brain injured patient was declared brain dead. The family, however, declined organ donation. The patient did not die. That is, he or she did not have cardiac arrest, contrary to the insistent claim that the imminent assholes necessarily follows brain death. After a few weeks,
Hey,
one, huh? What?
I
What's
have
that?
a question, but if I didn't want to stop you if you're right in the middle of
Yeah, what's
something.
up?
Okay, so I've been listening to you talk about like all the ways they're um, taking body parts, but are they transplanting them into other people? Are they using it for research? Like, isn't this like the heart or the liver or the lung that's in the little cooler that's going to someone, or is that been like romanticized?
Yeah. Oh no, it's going to somebody.
So
It's going to
so
somebody.
there's no
Yeah.
there's no like track and trace, you know, like don't they isn't there some kind of system? Because it just seems like they're stealing and killing people for these organs, but
I
do they
know.
have to account for them?
Well, how about if they say we delivered it, but we tried, but it failed, and they just never really tried or something?
So I think in most cases they are going to somebody in somebody's hospital, right? I think in most cases they are, but remember, hey, you might be right. So remember, there was a case in New York, in your neighborhood, Ramona, where you got these 19 rabbis who had an organ harvesting ring. You know what I'm saying? This was this is in Jersey, not Brooklyn. I was thinking Brooklyn. So yeah, this is in Jersey. It was 19 rabbis who had a
Right.
whole organ
I heard
harvesting
about
ring,
it. Yeah.
right? So could it be people like getting these? Yeah. Could it be the fact that these organs is going to people to eat? Possibly, right? Could it be that they're going to wealthy people who can pay cash money for it? Yeah. I think there are a lot of places these organs can be going. Remember, like
So they're just
hospitals
like the
build,
supplier.
right?
They just fill in the
Exactly,
demand.
exactly.
Mm, all right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It could be a lot of this shit. You know what I mean? So it's there. It's there. Right. And remember, heart $1 million. Hospitals are businesses. Lungs $1 million. These goddamn businesses, man.
I tell you, it is interesting because when my auntie got her kidney, she got a kidney transplant. But the only place, you know, we live on the West Coast, the only place that like could, what's the right word, meet the need, she had to come to John Hopkins on the East Coast. And so I know part of it is like the more of those procedures you do, like the more money you get and the more prestigious. But I just thought it was really interesting that like, you know, Stanford, you know, Cedar Sinai, like none of the, you know, well-known hospitals on the West Coast could provide that same thing. So it kind of makes me wonder, like what you're talking about, if they just have more of a steady stream of organs that come through there so they can perform these surgeries.
Possibly. Possibly. But yeah, it's there. Right. Um,
You know
so
what? Now that you say that, my best friend, I live in Houston, and like we're in the medical center, like that's the world-renowned medical center. Um, and when his heart was failing, he had to go to Utah or some off the wall place and like wait for months for a heart instead of it being done here. Like, why could it not have been done in Houston at some of
See,
the quote
Robin,
unquote best hospitals in the world?
and I thought the same thing. You're already in distress because you need an organ. So how about we send you all the way elsewhere for you to wait to get this, and then like John Hopkins, I didn't question their their ability to do the surgery, but I was like, why can't they send the cooler to somewhere on the West Coast? So I don't know. This is a very interesting ring that's going on.
It's a racket. It's a fucking racket. Right? Yeah. So, uh, like there are hundreds of stories of people who were either declared brain dead, and they're waking up as they're about to get their organs harvested, or people who they're declared brain dead, and the family was like, "Nah, you can't have these organs," and the person just kind of woke up or recovered. Right? The fact of the matter is, they're doing it by decree. All of this shit is them saying, "You know what? We think this person's dead." Right? We want to take these organs. We want to take these organs. Right? And so to me, it comes off kind of like we were talking about um, vaginal births versus C sections, where vaginal birth, it's not really going on. It's just kind of wait and see, and then the mother's doing all the pushing. We just there kind of waiting, and then when they say C section, it's like, oh, here we go. It's showtime. And so it's the same thing. If you're a doctor specializing in organ harvesting, nigga, you want to harvest some organs. You're like, all right, let's do it, right? Let's fucking do it. And so, dude, I for whatever reason, I thought I grabbed this clip, but I didn't. Um, where they're talking about how there's a like when the organ harvesting team actually comes, they have like a script that they run, right? Um, they have a tactic that they use to get the organs. I think Rashne was talking about how they had the press on the family. So they'll separate the family. They'll try to catch the family separately to try to get one of the decision makers alone, and then they just start. They'll talk really calmly, and you know they'll empathize, and they do all of this shit to try to get you to sign the paper, to try to get you to agree. Because the thing is, if you're with a whole bunch of people, you're not going to let like a whole lot of people together isn't going to agree to kill nobody, right? And so you have to separate the family members.
That sounds like the question that they were just asking. Why are they sending people to different states? That's exactly right there. Why would
Yeah,
or how many different family members can travel with you from a monetary standpoint?
that's
You know
true.
what I'm saying? So if you separate them from home, it's like let's hurry up and get this so we can get back home because I got to get back to work. You know what I'm saying? So now you pumping fear. It's like the money is running low. I don't know these doctors. I'm probably living in the hotel. I'm eating this BS food. So yeah.
That's entirely possible, right? So the team got a whole goddamn playbook that they run on how to get buy off for the organs, right? And like we mentioned here, a lot of times they don't wait. They assume that, oh yeah, these organs by law can be harvested, and this person is brain dead. So and if you're not there, let's say you got to drive an hour or whatever, and it's bad, they can make the decision before you get there. Depending on how bad it is, they can make the decision before you get there. They can just be like, oh, they're brain dead. All right, let's go ahead and prep them for donation. Then you get there, you be like, they'll tell you, oh no, he was dead. They won't tell you that we declared him brain dead or we declared him heart dead. They'll just say he was dead. And then, you have the body shipped back to your hometown, and your funeral director says, yeah, he came back with a bunch of tissue with him. And you like, what? Because they took all his fucking organs. All right. It's a thing.
To me, this falls in nicely with the blood type. How we always go searching for our blood type. If they know, quote unquote, your blood type, you sending in all these medical records, they operating on you or tell you they gotta operate on you. To me, they already fast tracked what they can give you in order for your symptoms to increase rapidly. To where again they pumping fear and able to get that. So technically, you're dead in their eyes because again they already know all this stuff. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I know what you're thinking. Well, shit. If the apnea test is not what you want, right? So Dr. Byrne is like, nah, tell him don't do the apnea test, right? If that's not what you want, if he's saying that brain dead don't mean dead because the heart's still beating, there's still brain activity, even though and this is the other thing. In the story I read where they brought the family in and showed them a fucking screen, it was like, everything that's black means that there's no brain activity. Obviously, these motherfuckers don't know what they're talking about. Right? There's a lot of hubris in humanity where we think we understand what the brain is doing and what the body's doing. And if nothing else, this shows that we don't know shit. Right? Or if we do know, they not teaching the doctors because the doctors don't know. Too many times these motherfuckers are calling people dead and they not. And so then it got me wondering, what did these people score on their U Smile? Because it's a lot of people harvesting fucking organs from live people who can recover. A lot. So now we need to know who are these fucking people. And then somebody said earlier, I think these motherfuckers are sadistic. They killing people. This shit might be the case. Because at this point, they serial killers. Right? This one dude's like, yeah, well, let's just pump them full of morphine or pump them full of fentanyl. You're going to kill them and then take the organs really fast. Like, nigga, it's a game. These motherfuckers might as well be playing Operation. So if Dr. Byrne is saying, they can recover as long as the heart is beating, they're alive. What should you have them do? Right? Don't do the apnea test. This is what you do instead.
Well, they need nutrition, and they need proper support of ventilation, and they need other things, but they don't need to have things done to them like the apnea test. And 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 of course, if they're there with them, then that also assures the person who might not be able to manifest consciousness, but they could have some awareness of people around them, and it helps to have someone around who loves you, so stay there. The other thing that I do is that I encourage people to put it in writing that they don't want the apnea test done. I also encourage them that they want everything done that will protect and preserve their life, the life of their loved one, and not do anything that's going to harm them or shorten their life or hasten their death. And they have to put it in writing. And if it's in writing, then they have a better chance. And the what occurred in Germany and what occurred in Japan is that these patients, if they did not get the apnea test and if they continued to treat them, 60% of the patients made recovery.
60% of brain dead people made recovery. Not in America, like, cause they don't allow that shit. All right, but in Japan, right. So when they do shit outside the country, they're like, oh, we know how to treat this. Right. So essentially, he said, do the same shit we talk about all the time. Give the nutrition and rest. That's it. And give the body a chance to fix itself. We talk about that shit all the time. The body can fix itself. Give it the tools. Give the body the tools to fix itself. That's it. Nothing fancy. But when you go to hospitals, that's not what they want. Because they're not in the business of nutrition. Right?
Not at
Hospitals aren't.
all.
They're not in the business of nutrition. They're not in the business of waiting. They're not in the business of getting you fucking healthy. They're in the business of doing what they came to do, which is surgery and drugs. And even well-meaning doctors, they're trained to do what they do, which is surgery and drugs. What you say, Rashna? You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What you saying?
During COVID, something happened where my brother had low levels of sodium and his brain swelled and he lost consciousness. They had to do a surgery to relieve the swelling on his brain, and they were like telling us it was kind of wild what happened. Um, they were kind of telling us like they didn't know like what his brain activity was going to be like if he was going to live. Um, but it was the middle of COVID, so we couldn't even go to the hospital. So after him being in there for 24 hours, like I spoke to the nurse, like, how do you expect my brother to try to fight for his life if we can't even like see him or talk to him? He can't hear our voices. So she ended up, it ended up being to where we could call a couple times a day and then we put the phone on speaker so that we could talk to him. But I still don't know what happened because a couple days after that, now mind you, we went from like unconscious, had to have brain surgery, didn't know if he was going to make it through the night, to 2 days later, we called to check on him, and the nurse was like, oh, he left. And we're like, what do you mean he left? But my brother says they were doing weird things to him in the hospital. When he came, like when he became conscious, he got up and he left the hospital. Staples in his head, just had brain surgery a couple days before. He ended up, they had security escort him out the hospital because he was in there acting crazy. But he was like, I wasn't acting crazy. The niggas was doing weird shit to me and I needed to leave. And he refused to go back.
Hey man, more power to them. I feel it. I fucking feel it. You know what I'm saying? We in a bizarro world where you safer outside the hospital. As soon as you can physically get up and get your ass out of there, best thing to do. As soon as you can physically get up after they fix the trauma. So remember, if you're going there for trauma, you broke something, you failed, they got to put you back together. You Humpty Dumpty in this bitch. I'm with you. All right, y'all cool. But as soon as they start trying to do other shit, nope. Nope. I'm cool. So as soon as my man could physically get up, he was like, "Yo, get me the fuck out of here. I'm gonna start wrecking shit. I'm checking out AMA. I'm out. I'm with him." So yeah. Yeah, man. So hopefully y'all got something from this. Like I said, it's this one is one of those. It's tough, right? Because you got to think about what it takes to harvest somebody. They're alive. They're alive. There is no organ or so if you get nothing from this, remember, there is no organ harvesting from dead bodies. They can only harvest organs from people who are alive. Okay.
Hey, real quick before you close up. So, do you think there's a trial period? Because as you were talking, it's like, well, when they say, oh, they're resting, to me, what I heard was, yo, we doping them up, and we're seeing how their body responds to that. They can't talk to you, so we're just gonna tell you they're resting. So, do you think there's a trial period that they put the bodies through before deciding if they want to, take the organs or not?
Yeah, yeah. I think they getting their story together, right? You know what I'm saying? Can we sell this person as brain dead? Right. Let's take the temperature of the family to see where they at. Will they buy what we're selling? Right? Can we get them to believe it? You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I think it's the setup. It's there. Right? It's there. But yeah, you only get organs from living people, and that's the wildest shit going. Because I know, um, I didn't think so. Right? I thought, oh, people die, and then you can just donate your stuff. No, 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 no. The heart has to be beaten for you to donate anything. So just remember that shit. And remember, and if you feel like what we talking about, remember, say no to the apnea test in every way, shape, or form. All right. You said should we be organ donors on your license? No, nigga, no, 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 no.
Wait, what does
And
the apnea test? Sorry, go ahead.
no problem. So here, let me respond to Rodney. Hey, Rodney, the fucked up thing is it doesn't matter. So they have the Anatomical Gift Act, which even if you go right now on your license, if it says, if you say, yo, I don't want to be a donor no more, they'll consider it revocation. But what they say is revocation is not refusal. And so the Anatomical Gift Act allows them to still take your organs even if you're not a donor, because it's assumed that everybody wants to donate their organs. So on your license or not, they still can take your shit. Okay? On your license or not, they can still come through and take it. All right? But if you don't want to donate it, then take it off. You can take it off your license, and then you have to clearly state it. Like your people have to know. It got to be in your will. Like it's got to be somewhere that you don't want your organs to be donated, because they can only take organs from a living person, and they do not give you anesthesia. You're alive, but you're paralyzed, and they start fucking cutting on you and taking your shit. All right. Um, Rand, you said what's the apnea test? So the apnea test is what they use to determine if you're quote unquote brain dead, right? And so for that, they remove you from the ventilator to see if you can maintain your own breathing. So they take you off the ventilator for like 10 minutes to see if you can if you can maintain breathing.
Man, this whole shit is like sickening to me. Cause you know what I just went through, and I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, cause all right. So when they do like the screening for like the liver transplant, right? Most of the deceased donors, as they refer to them, are people who have HIV or hepatitis. So I'm like, how do you? I don't know. This shit was just blowing minds in the sense that like, how are those people the ones that are the majority of the donors? And then we all know like the history regarding HIV. So I don't know. It's just giving fact.
Because a lot of donors end up being drug addicts that fall unconscious and fall into comas and shit, and a lot of those motherfuckers be
Ah.
having those problems. Hmm. A lot of drug addicts end up being donors.
But after death, right? You could still donate the eyes.
No,
Not even the eyes.
No organs can be donated after death. All organs are harvested while the heart is beating.
Soul has to be attached to the organ.
Hmm. All organs are harvested while the heart is beating. So they have what they call beating heart cadavers, meaning that you're alive and they're just treating you like you're dead.
Like that lady in that's pregnant right now and on life support, and they won't take her off.
Who is that? I don't know who that is.
Um,
Oh yeah, I heard about that
yeah,
because
she
they said
was
something
like,
about abortion laws.
yeah, in
That's
the
political.
state. So, but
Yeah,
they're saying that
they're
they're
not
trying
taking
to.
her off because of the whole she's have a baby and they can't basically like abort the child. So they can't basically, put her down because of that. So it's not for her. I mean, if you want to consider the baby an organ, but that's something else.
I think they're running an experiment to see about incubation.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me
if they
too.
can incubate babies in deceased people. That's what I
You
think they're
don't think
doing.
you don't think they got the knowledge on that already? You don't think they already did that?
Y'all conspiracy theorists. That's what's wrong with y'all.
I mean, the World Fairs, they've done
That's
that,
what I'm saying. That's
but
political. That's all that is politics.
And also, too, there's been plenty of women who have been in vegetative states to where, like, the caretakers or the people in, like, nursing homes who impregnate them to where they have babies full time. You don't need this woman to do it.
This lady was weeks pregnant. She was like 2, 3 weeks pregnant. So they're putting her on life support for 8, 9 months to see if the baby's going to,
But
get out.
there's women who have, like I said, that's in vegetative states.
nursing homes, that's happened to them where
Yes,
they've been in
exactly.
comas and been sexually
It's
assaulted and end up
Exactly.
pregnant. And they're like, wait, how did she end up pregnant when she's been in a coma or in a vegetative
Yeah,
state?
so we don't need
And
this
they
black
still
woman to
had
do it.
the babies, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, Ronnie, for sure.
Can we go
Hey
Pittsburgh?
man,
Okay.
wasn't that on Kill Bill? My name is Buck, and I'm here to
and I'm
fuck.
here to fuck. See, I was
Yep.
thinking about that, but I
Yep.
couldn't remember if she
Yeah.
had that baby before or after she was in that coma. But that's immediately
Yeah,
where my mind
yeah, yeah, man. So, um, yeah, guys, remember that can't get organs from a dead body.
I
All right.
with that woman that her family have to endure that because but at the same time it's like it's giving them kind of like false hope because if she's alive essentially but her quote unquote brain is dead, but the baby is still like, what's the baby gonna be like?
Well, that baby already got water on the brain. So,
It's crazy.
That's
and
crazy.
on top of that, who's going to take care of this baby?
Mm-hmm.
Then she already got
And
another
who's paying
son.
that doctor
She got
bill?
another kid already.
Who's paying that doctor bill? That hospital bill?
The state.
Her
Well, her
insurance.
insurance is
Well, no, her
yeah.
insurance sat there and said they're done with her because she's dead.
See, that's that
That's
clinically,
technicality.
yeah, technical bullshit. No, you're right.
You're wiping down the trash can. I know I am.
Because
And
the
well, I mean,
insurance
if
sat
her
there and
insurance was based on her working, she's no longer
no,
working.
that
You
woman
know
is
what I'm
no
saying?
longer alive medically.
Right, for a year. You think the insurance company is going to cover her for the next nine
Not even
months?
just her, a fetus, and whatever else they sit there and proctor up her and do whatever bullshit they doing with her.
Like,
Mm.
So wouldn't the state have to cover that? Because can you? Because she a grown ass
That
woman,
woman
right?
is
So can you like?
dead.
I get that, but hold on. Can you like transfer her motherfucking bills to her parents and shit? Like, wouldn't that just be up
Hell
in the air?
no.
Like
No,
somebody else
that's
can.
not true.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
Like,
a state. They will sit there and build a estate. So if she got some,
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. So nobody's gonna have to pay for this.
Oh, somebody's gonna have to pay.
No, they could pay for it if you have an estate. That's almost like, first off, I'll sit there and say this. Like when my great grandmother like got sick, racked up all these medical bills, and she had a house. They Now what they didn't do is they sat there and said, "Hey, we're not going to charge you everything, but we do want a check. If you don't give us a check, we'll put a lien on the house because she got a property." You get what I'm saying? It's no different if this person now. If she don't have no property, she ain't got a car, she don't have this, then they might just let it go. But somebody's going to pay for this stuff because there's going to be an estate associated with her and her child.
So you're correct in that her estate has to pay, but if her estate ain't got no money, then they SOL. Like they can't just be like, well, her estate ain't got it, so we coming after her
No,
kids.
no, no.
Like,
That's what I'm saying. She has a house though, or
yeah,
she has
yeah,
like an insurance policy. That's why people have to go through probate court because
yeah, that's true.
before we sit there and settle everything, the probate court is to sit there and say, "Hey, you got taxes. Who else you owe? Who does this and that? Blah 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 blah." Next thing you know, you write a check off and sit there and say, "Hey, these are all the people we're going to pay, and we're done with it." I don't know if it's how like that way in Illinois, but that's how it is in Pennsylvania. Before you
Yeah, we
sit there
got
and get
probate court
anything,
too.
yeah, you got to go to probate. Once
Yeah,
you
that's true.
inherited a property from some old ass person who could be your parents or auntie or whatever, because they put liens on your house.
That's true. All right, y'all. Getting up out this joint. Here we still got a moment of positivity for y'all. All right, don't think I forgot about y'all. All right, so here it's a moment of positivity right here.
How heavy is this glass of water? Melissa, would you care to answer?
8 ounces,
12 ounces,
16 ounces.
The absolute weight of the glass doesn't matter. It depends on how long I hold on to it. If I hold it for a minute, nothing happens. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will begin to ache. If I hold it all day long, my arm will feel numb and paralyzed. Well, the weight of the glass hasn't changed, but the longer I hold on to it, the heavier it becomes. The stresses and the worries of life are like this glass of water. If you think about them for a little while, there's no problem. Think about it for a little bit longer, it begins to hurt. You think about them all day long, and you'll feel paralyzed, incapable of doing anything. Always remember, put the glass down.
Hey, y'all heard it. Always remember to put the glass down.
Man, that nigga gaslighted
Oh,
the fuck out of.
oh
You did
yeah,
not
he
fucking.
gaslighted the
You
fuck
went
out of
into
me.
all the extra shit. You just asked me how heavy was
Hey, bruh. Again, you got to think about it
it. Matter of fact, he didn't even ask how heavy
existentially.
it was. He asked me how much it weighed. If he asked how heavy it was, it would have been a better point made by him.
Yeah, weight changes based on how long you
Weight
holding
doesn't
something, dog.
change.
That's
Your
all it
strength
is.
changes.
The perceived weight
The
changes,
perception
The
dog.
of the weight,
perception
yeah.
changes, but weight don't change.
I
Now it would
got
have
you.
been better if he
Um,
asked how heavy it was.
I got you. Everybody,
Semantics.
stream rendition song. It's in the chat. What's the name of your song, Ren?
Motherland.
Stream the song "Motherland" by Rendition. That's your name on
No, it's Rend the Way.
Ren the Way. RENTHEWAY. Ren the Way.
Yes.
I thought you might have spelled it Jamaican style, but okay, cool. Everybody stream Ren the Way um, on Apple Music.
Yes,
That's what I'm
everywhere. Apple
saying.
Music, Spotify, Tidal, Instagram,
All right.
all the good.
Good shit, man. All right, man. We'll see y'all on Friday. Remember blackisuniform.com, blackuniform.com. We talking about the Diddy trial on Friday, and we'll see if we can get Rashanae's homie to come in and we can talk about this birth stuff. All right, we out.
You coming to the cookout, but you need the right gear. Blackisuniform.com, you can get it right here. We talk flat earth and mud floods. You might hear about the dome. No matter the topic, you just need something with the shield on. Blackisuniform.com, where conspiracy analysts are at home. Blackisuniform.com, where conspiracy analysts are at home.
Vigor Sport is love and light in a bottle, a CBD infused salve that rids the body of pain, arthritis, carpal tunnel, and muscle aches. There's no job too great for Vigor Sport. Headaches, muscle spasms, and menstrual cramps are a thing of the past. Vigor Sport is the Swiss Army knife of your medicine cabinet. Order your jar today at vigorforpain.com.